June 19, 1944. 6:30 a.m. Normandy, France. Dawn is barely breaking when the first American P-47 Thunderbolts roar overhead, their engines ripping the morning silence apart. The hedgerows are slick with dew. Smoke still hangs low over the fields from the night's artillery. Somewhere beyond the trees, the war is already moving on. In a shallow ditch near a shattered farmhouse, Gefreiter Karl Müller presses his helmet down tighter against his head. He hasn't slept in 2 days. His uniform is stiff with dried mud. His mouth tastes like rust, and his stomach has been empty since before the Allies came ashore. Around him, what's left of his unit barely looks like a unit anymore. No radio, no officers, just hollow-eyed men clutching rifles they know they won't fire again. Then it happens. Boots. American boots. Close. Too close. A shout in English cuts through the air. Another voice joins it. Steel clicks, rifles being raised, safeties clicking off. Müller exhales slowly and lets his weapon slide into the mud. Hands up, palms open. A white scrap of cloth rises from somewhere behind him, trembling in the early light. The war, for him, ends not with a bullet, but with silence. You can almost feel the moment stretch, those few seconds when no one is sure whether surrender will be accepted or punished. Then an American infantryman steps forward. Young, barely 20. His face is smeared with dirt, but his eyes are steady. He motions sharply. Stand up. Slowly.
Müller complice.
His legs shake. Not from fear alone, but from hunger and exhaustion. He expects a search, maybe a beating. He expects hatred. After all, this is the enemy he's been told would show no mercy. Instead, something strange happens. The American reaches into his pocket and pulls out a cigarette. He lights it, takes a drag, then, after a pause, extends it toward Müller. For a second, no one moves. The war has taught Müller that nothing is free, that kindness is a trick. But the cigarette remains there, burning steadily between 2 fingers. Finally, Müller takes it. His hands are shaking too badly to hide it. The smoke hits his lungs like fire and relief. This is how captivity begins. By mid-morning, dozens of German prisoners are being herded down a dirt road toward a temporary collection point. Helmets gone, weapons confiscated. Their gray uniforms stand out against the green Norman countryside. American soldiers watch them carefully but without cruelty. Some stare with curiosity, others with fatigue. Everyone looks worn thin by weeks of fighting. The prisoners whisper to one another in low voices. How long will we be kept? Will they ship us to England? Will there be revenge? They don't know yet that their journey is only beginning, and that what awaits them will feel more unreal than any propaganda film they'd ever seen. By evening, they are loaded onto trucks and driven west. The roads are clogged with Allied traffic, tanks, ambulances, fuel trucks marked with white stars. The scale of it is overwhelming. Müller has fought since 1941, from the Eastern Front to France, but he has never seen logistics like this. The Americans seem to have everything. Endless fuel.
Endless vehicles.
Endless men who look well-fed. That detail sticks with him. Late that night, the prisoners arrive at a fenced camp hastily erected from barbed wire and canvas. Searchlights cut through the darkness. Guards shout instructions. Names are taken. Dog tags collected. Someone hands Müller a stamped card that reads, PW, prisoner of war. Feels lighter than expected. They are given water first. Actual clean water. Then a ladle of hot stew, thin but warm. Müller eats in silence, savoring every mouthful, half expecting someone to snatch it away. No one does. Still, he doesn't relax. Not yet. Because everything he believes about America tells him this is temporary. That kindness must have a purpose. That behind the wire, something darker waits. And then the next morning arrives. The sun climbs over the camp. The wire glows faintly in the light. Guards move casually now, less tense than before. Somewhere beyond the tents, Müller hears a sound that doesn't belong on a battlefield. A metallic hiss, a sharp pop, followed by laughter. Not the bitter sound of soldiers under fire, but relaxed, Effortless laughter. Muller turns his head toward the noise. Other prisoners are doing the same. A line begins to form near a camp tent. Americans are standing there, smiling. One of them is holding a glass bottle filled with a dark liquid capped in red. Another is scooping something pale and cold into metal bowls.
Müller squints, confused.
He doesn't know it yet, but in a few moments the war he understood is going to fracture completely. Because this is the day German prisoners of war see America. Not through bombs or bullets, but through something far more disarming. Sweet, cold, and utterly unthinkable in a world at war. The line moves slowly. Karl Muller shuffles forward with the rest of the prisoners, boots dragging through the dust. No one speaks now. All eyes are fixed on the same impossible sight. American soldiers casually handing out drinks and food, as if this were a village fair instead of a prison camp in occupied France. The bottle comes closer. Short, curved, glass. The label is unfamiliar at first, written in smooth white script on a red background. Muller has heard the name before, of course. He's seen it mocked in German newspapers, dismissed as a symbol of shallow American excess. Coca-Cola. A children's drink, they said. Sugary nonsense. Decadent. Weak. The American corporal pops the cap off with practiced ease. PSSSHHT. The sound cuts through the air like a gunshot, but without fear attached to it. Dark bubbles climb toward the lip of the bottle, alive with motion. He hands it to Muller. The glass is cold. Not cool, cold. Shockingly cold. Muller's fingers stiffen around it. He hasn't touched something chilled since before the war. Ice is a memory now. Something that belonged to peacetime cafes and summers by the river. Around him, other prisoners stare at their bottles like relics from another life. Drink, the corporal says, not unkindly, almost amused.
Müller hesitatis.
You can almost feel his suspicion, trained into him by years of deprivation and propaganda. Is it drugged? Is it meant to humiliate them? He raises the bottle anyway, because curiosity is stronger than fear. The first sip hits his tongue, and the world tilts. The sweetness is immediate, startling. Not faint, not restrained. It floods his mouth with flavors he doesn't have words for anymore. Sugar, caramel, something sharp beneath it all. The fizz bites gently at his lips. For a split second, Muller is no longer a prisoner. He is 17 again, sitting by a cafe window in Hamburg, sunlight on the pavement outside, the war still somewhere far away and abstract. His chest tightens. Not from hunger or exhaustion this time, but from the sudden, painful weight of memory. Around him, reactions ripple through the line. Eyes widen, brows lift. Someone laughs, actually laughs, before catching himself. A tall Bavarian named Otto Reiser tilts the bottle back greedily and curses softly in amazement. Another prisoner, older, more cautious, takes a single sip and then just closes his eyes, as if afraid the taste will vanish if he looks at it too closely. The Americans notice. Some grin. Some exchange glances like they're sharing a private joke. Then comes the second shock. Metal bowls. White, dense, perfectly rounded scoops that steam faintly in the summer air. Not from heat, but from the cold fighting against it. Ice cream. Vanilla. A word that has almost disappeared from Muller's vocabulary. The spoon sinks in smoothly, offering no resistance. He tastes it without thinking, and his breath catches. Cold explodes across his tongue. Rich, creamy, unreal. This isn't survival food. This isn't ration bread or turnip soup or ersatz coffee brewed from burned roots. This is indulgence, luxury, something meant to be enjoyed. Something meant for a world without shortages. Muller looks up sharply, as if expecting the illusion to shatter. The wire fence is still there. The guards are still armed. But nothing changes. No one shouts. No one takes the bowl away. The Americans just let them eat. You can feel the mental struggle happening in real time. Everything these men have been taught says this shouldn't exist. Not now. Not here. Not for prisoners. Germany has been fighting for years with less and less. Smaller rations, thinner fuel lines, promises stretched beyond belief. And yet this enemy, hands out ice cream in the middle of a war. That realization hits harder than artillery. A murmur passes through the prisoners. Quiet questions. Disbelief. Someone says it aloud before he can stop himself. If they give this to prisoners, what do their own soldiers have? No one answers, because no one wants to finish the thought. Later that afternoon, Muller sits on the ground near his tent, empty bowl resting in the dirt beside him. He watches American trucks roll past the camp, stacked high with crates marked in English. More food, more supplies, always more. For the first time since his capture, fear returns, but it's not the fear of mistreatment. It's the fear of understanding. Understanding that this war may already be lost. That the enemy has not only manpower and machines, but abundance. A kind of confidence that allows them to spare sweetness for men behind wire. Muller realizes something else too. Something quieter, more dangerous. If America can afford ice cream here, what else can they afford? As dusk settles over the camp, guards string lights along the perimeter. Real electric lights humming softly. Muller lies back, staring up at them, the taste of vanilla still lingering impossibly on his tongue. The propaganda he grew up with didn't prepare him for this. And tomorrow he will see something that makes today feel almost gentle by comparison. Because food was only the beginning. Morning comes softly, not with shellfire or shouted orders, but with the low murmur of voices and the clink of metal cups. Carl Muller wakes to the unfamiliar feeling of being rested. Not comfortable, not safe, but rested enough that his thoughts move faster than his body. Breakfast is waiting. It isn't generous by American standards, but compared to what he's known for years, it borders on obscene. Bread that doesn't crumble into dust. Coffee that smells like coffee. Not the bitter, burnt substitute brewed back home, but dark, rich, undeniably real. The prisoners sit in silence at first. They eat cautiously, as if consumption itself might be a mistake. Muller watches the Americans as much as he watches his food. The guards joke with one another. One whistles. Another reads a folded letter, smiling faintly before slipping it back into his pocket. No one watches the Germans with hatred. That detail gnaws at Muller. Hatred would make sense. Hatred would fit the version of America he's been fed since 1939. A nation of soft men hiding behind machines, terrified of real sacrifice. But these soldiers don't look soft. They look competent, relaxed, like men who expect tomorrow to come. Later that day, they are marched to a processing tent. Names, ranks, serial numbers. A young American lieutenant speaks in careful, accented German, explaining procedures. You will be treated according to the Geneva Convention. The words land like fiction. Convention implies rules. Rules imply restraint. Restraint implies confidence. Muller exchanges a glance with Otto Reiser. They're both thinking the same thing even if neither dares say it. You don't follow rules unless you believe you're going to win. In the afternoon heat, the Americans set up something near the far fence. Simple wooden benches, a canvas screen fluttering in the breeze. Rumors move faster than the guards can correct them. A movie. For us? Impossible. But as twilight settles, a generator kicks to life. A steady hum fills the camp. Projector whirs. Light dances across the canvas screen and suddenly, there it is. Hollywood. Bright, loud, ridiculously alive. Comedy. Slapstick humor. Music. A world where problems resolve themselves within an hour and everyone goes home smiling. American soldiers sit on one side of the fence, German prisoners on the other. First, no one laughs. Then one man does. A short, embarrassed burst. He glances around, mortified, but no one stops him. Slowly, laughter spreads. Careful at first, then freer. Muller feels it before he understands it. The release. The sudden easing of a pressure he's carried since the Eastern Front. You can almost see the shift happening. The war doesn't disappear, but its edges blur. After the film, something unexpected happens again. Leftovers, popcorn, candy, more Coca-Cola. An American private tosses a wrapped sweet over the fence. Muller catches it reflexively, staring at the bright paper in his hands. He hasn't seen packaging this colorful in years. He opens it slowly, half afraid it will vanish. Sugar hits his tongue, sharp and overwhelming. It's too much. He laughs despite himself. That night, lying on his cot, Muller stares at the tent ceiling as questions crowd his mind. Why waste resources on enemy prisoners? Why show strength this openly? Why not intimidate, starve, break them? The answer arrives unbidden and unwelcome. Because they don't need to. Because this isn't waste to them. This is surplus. Over the following days, more details emerge. Through translators. Through overheard conversations. Through the offhand remarks of guards who don't realize how carefully they're being studied. America produces more food than it can eat. More fuel than it can burn. More aircraft than its pilots can fly. This camp, this generosity isn't propaganda. It's logistics. Muller begins to notice small things. How American soldiers throw away cigarette butts with tobacco still on them. How damaged boots are replaced without ceremony. How mail arrives regularly, reliably, like a force of nature. He realizes something deeply unsettling. Germany has been fighting on ideology. America fights on industry. And industry doesn't get tired. One afternoon, Muller helps unload supplies under guard supervision. He lifts a crate stamped with markings he doesn't recognize and wonders, absurdly, how many factories must exist an ocean away to make this moment possible? A guard notices his stare. Plenty more where that came from, he says casually. That sentence stays with Muller. Because if that's true, if this abundance is normal, then no amount of sacrifice or belief will bridge the gap. Courage doesn't make ice cream appear in the summer heat. Faith doesn't conjure trucks out of thin air. Reality does. As night falls again, Muller sits near the fence with Otto Reiser. Do you think our families are eating like this?
Otto asks quietly.
Muller doesn't answer, because they both know the truth. And once you know a truth like that, you can't unknow it. Tomorrow they will be told where they are going next. Somewhere farther from the front. Somewhere safer. Somewhere that will make it even harder to believe the war back home is still winnable. And when that realization fully sets in, it will change them forever. The transfer order comes at dawn. No shouting. No panique. Just a clipboard, a list of names, and calm efficiency. Karl Muller shoulders his small bundle of belongings, what little the war has left him, and steps into line. Trucks idle nearby, engines purring steadily, sipping fuel instead of coughing it up. The stars and stripes flap lazily from antennae. They are headed away from the front. As the convoy rolls south, Muller studies the countryside through slatted wooden sides. French villages slide past, damaged, yes, but alive. Civilians move openly now. American MPs direct traffic. Field kitchens churn out meals with relentless consistency. The war feels organized. Hours later, the trucks pull up to something that doesn't look like a prison at all. Wide fences, true barracks, shower buildings, a medical tent with a red cross painted clean and bold. Somebody murmurs the word that no one quite believes yet.
À permanent camp.
The guards brief them calmly. There are rules, work details, male privileges, inspections, Red Cross visits, a schedule posted in 3 languages. A schedule feels surreal. The first afternoon is medical checks, dentists, vaccinations. Muller sits on a wooden bench watching an American medic clean his instruments meticulously, as if time itself is abundant. The medic hums, a tune Muller doesn't recognize. Music from a radio crackles softly in the background. Swing, upbeat, effortless. Then comes lunch. Not stew this time, but trays. Sectioned. Efficient. Meat, vegetables, bread, butter in neat little packets. An apple impossibly red. Muller takes a bite and freezes. It's crisp, fresh. He hasn't tasted something this alive in years. Across from him, Otto eats silently, eyes fixed on his plate as if staring might break the spell. Around them, men who once stormed cities on behalf of a collapsing empire chew carefully, reverently. No one jokes now. They are thinking too hard. That evening, A U.S. Army captain addresses them through a translator. The tone is factual, not triumphant. You will work. You will be fed. You will be safe. The war will end. Not might. Will. Later, Muller is assigned to a work detail, repairing rural roads damaged by retreating forces. The labor is real but not punishing. They are paid a small wage, credited toward camp canteens where goods can be purchased. Purchased. That word lands with quiet force. At the canteen window, Muller stares at the menu board. Tobacco, chocolate, soap, toothpaste, writing paper, and yes, Coca-Cola. Bottles stacked high behind the counter like ammunition. He trades his first camp credit for one bottle and steps aside, unscrewing the cap slowly. The hiss is familiar now, almost comforting. You can feel the shift inside him. Not joy, not relief, but clarity. This isn't generosity meant to impress prisoners. This is how Americans operate. This is normal to them. The scale is casual, unremarkable. Back in Germany, Muller knows, children scrape pots for the last remnants of soup. Trams stop running for lack of power. Cities are rubble. Promises replace fuel. Here, ice chills drinks for men who were trying to kill them weeks ago. That night, Muller writes his first letter home. He chooses his words carefully, knowing it will be censored. He cannot describe everything, but he tries to hint. I am well, he writes. Do not worry. They treat us correctly. We are fed. He pauses, then adds something riskier. The world here is very different. He stares at the page for a long moment before folding it. Days turn into weeks. The routines settle in. Work, meals, occasional films, letters exchanged. Rumors filter through the camp. Rome has fallen. Paris is threatened. The Allied advance pushes relentlessly east. And with each new piece of news, something erodes. Not morale. Faith. Faith that sacrifice alone decides wars. Faith that belief outweighs capacity. Faith that slogans can compete with factories. One afternoon, Muller overhears an American sergeant explaining baseball to a fellow guard. The conversation drifts: numbers of teams, number of cities, travel schedules across a continent. A continent. Muller does the math in his head. And for the first time he feels small. Not as a prisoner, not as a defeated soldier, but as a man who finally understands scale. That night, as rain taps against the barracks roof, he lies awake thinking about the taste of ice cream melting on his tongue weeks earlier. How something so simple cracked open an entire worldview. Because hunger can be endured. Fear can be mastered. Even captivity can be survived. But certainty is fragile. And once it breaks, it doesn't come back together the same way. Soon, Muller will learn that this experience, this quiet confrontation with abundance, will shape not just how he understands the war, but how he understands the world that comes after it.